Hey everybody, welcome. I'm back. This is Matt the lawyer coming back with some more information about some legal updates related to COVID-19 and all the stuff that's going on. So be mindful that this information could very well change in the next few hours. But I did want to give everybody an update on what is going on with federal legislation that's currently making its way through Congress. So the House has passed a bill that will include some emergency provisions that we're going to talk about. It's been passed. Reportedly, the Senate is taking it up today. Not quite sure what that's going to look like, and there is always the possibility that the Senate will do what the Senate likes to do, which is change it, and then send it back to the House and all kinds of things going on. This is the bill that reportedly Speaker Pelosi and President Trump have agreed upon. Again, it's federal legislation, and you have to sort of take some of that with a grain of salt, but I think a lot of this stuff is going to make its way into the bill and how that's going to work. So there's three particular parts of this very large bill that are going to apply to employers, and particularly when they're dealing with their employees going forward. So the first of these is there's going to be an expansion of the Family Medical Leave Act on an emergency basis. There's going to be an Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, and then there's tax credits for people who have to grant both the emergency FMLA and the emergency sick leave. So I know for a lot of my clients, I tend to tell people if you don't have 50 employees, you don't have to worry about FMLA and don't include it in your employee handbook. Well, these are strange times, so that's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to talk a little bit about what these things entail and what employers should probably start planning to do as they get ready. So first up is the Family Medical Leave Act emergency expansion. This will cover all companies with fewer than 500 employees. And yes, that includes companies with fewer than 50 employees. So it goes all the way down. It is possible that there may be an exemption for certain small businesses for 25 or less employees if doing this would put them out of business. I'm not quite sure how they're going to finagle that or work around that, but we'll see what is what. So the way this works is under FMLA, employees who've been working for 30 days are going to be eligible for this particular emergency FMLA leave. So 30 days, does that mean 30 consecutive days? Does that mean 30 work days? Who knows? Just assume it's going to be as broad a reading as possible. Congress is going to be looked at this as an intent to be very, very broad to provide that. So usually there's some old things that had to exist if you had, in order to qualify, you had to have at least 1 year of employment. You had to have worked at least 1,250 hours in the past 12 months before taking your FMLA. Yeah, none of those still apply. It literally is everybody. Okay. So the employees would still get 12 weeks of FMLA leave, and they could use it for one of the following three reasons. All right, number one, to adhere to a requirement or, importantly, a recommendation to self-quarantine due to exposure or symptoms of the coronavirus COVID-19. Number two, to care for a family member, not very well defined, but we'll assume that they're going to be using the FMLA definition, but a family member who also must self-quarantine or for exposure to coronavirus or ordered to quarantine. Or, and this is important for lots of parents out there, if you have to care for a child because their school or daycare center has been closed, either by government order or by recommendation. So if you're sick, if a family member is sick, or you got to take care of a kid because they're out of school because the schools are closed, all of those are going to qualify the individual employees for FMLA, for the emergency FMLA. This is usually paid, and that's what's going to jack up a lot of employers. Quite a few employers are in a situation where, oh my God, I can't even pay my staff now. How am I going to do this? We'll get to that in another, a little bit later in another section. Okay, employers and employees have to give as much notice as possible, and the effective date of this bill would go into effect 15 days after the president signs it. So if Congress or the Senate signs off on the House bill as it's written, the president could be signing it as early as today, more likely tomorrow, and then 15 days from then it becomes effective. So there is a hard sunset on this law, though. There is a hard sunset at the end of this year, December 31, 2020. Okay, so that's emergency FMLA. Now there's emergency paid sick leave. Also applies to all employers with less than 500 people. Sorry, I keep looking down at my notes because there's a lot of it here. So all employees, regardless of how much service they have, are eligible for this. So if you hired somebody the day before this law is passed, they're going to be eligible for this sick leave. Okay, so they're up to 2 weeks of paid leave, 80 hours, or prorated down for part-time employees. So if you have a part-time employee who works 20 hours a week, they would get half. So they get 2 hours, 2 weeks of 20 hours. Okay, so here's where the sick leave kicks in. Number one, to quarantine or self-isolate because of diagnosed coronavirus. Number two, to seek a diagnosis or preventative care for coronavirus symptoms. To comply with a recommendation again, or an order from the government, could be your state or local government, or healthcare provider that the employee shouldn't be at work because of coronavirus fears. Now, bear in mind, this is now a specific change from what I previously reported about OSHA. OSHA had said, you can't really say you can't come to work because you're afraid of something. Now you are saying this. The government is going to be saying this, that if you have a legitimate fear of coronavirus spread, you can refuse to come to work and you can take this emergency paid sick leave. Okay, so, or to, number four, to care for a family member. Okay, kind of like FMLA, or to care for a child whose school is closed or the child's care provider is unavailable due to coronavirus. Okay, companies have to pay an employee for taking leave of any of the first three reasons that I talked about. That's to self-isolate, to seek a diagnosis, or to comply with a recommendation or public order. If an employee takes paid sick leave for a family member or a child, that's reasons number 4 or 5. They get paid 2/3 of the employee's regular pay. So for parents, even if you're not sick, you can still take it and still get 2/3 of your pay. If you have a PTO policy, this paid sick leave under the law is in addition to. Okay, let me say that again. It's in addition to your current PTO policy. So if an employee has, let's say they have 5 days of PTO in the bank, okay, and they can use it whenever, this additional 2 weeks of time, that's in addition. You can't run them concurrently. Okay, so that employee would be eligible for 3 weeks of paid leave, and then FMLA and all the other stuff that goes along with it. Okay. You can require the employee to call out, to regularly call in to use this, and that's fine. Everybody's eligible for it. Don't screw this up. Don't discriminate. Bad. Just like that emergency FMLA, this goes into effect 15 days after the president signs it, and it's got a December 31, 2020 sunset. Nice little point here that does help employers a little bit. This 2 weeks of pay can't be carried over into next calendar year. So you don't have to worry about that. Like you don't have enough. All right, so here comes the question. And the question is holy crap, this could cost a lot of money. FMLA is expensive. Paid sick leave, obviously expensive. So it will be a question of how to manage that. Well, Congress is talking about tax credits for 100% of the money that an employer has to pay out. Whether that's an above the line tax credit, below the line, I don't know these details yet. Rumor has it, at least according to a report in the Wall Street Journal today, that I think it was today, that the Treasury Department will advance funds to certain folks. Right now, the rumor is that all of these things will apply to self-employed individuals, so those independent contractors, folks like that who are out there. They would be eligible to receive this assistance and benefits as well. Not quite sure how that's going to work, but they would be eligible for these emergency loans. Still no word from the Small Business Administration as of this recording as to whether or not the SBA is going to be offering credits. Still the rumor is out there that they're going to be doing that. You should also check with your local and state authorities as well. So the Senate is scheduled to take up this particular bill today. We'll see what they say and do. In the meantime, good luck, stay healthy, wash your hands, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.